Okay, welcome everyone. Dean, I'll let you go ahead and kick it all off.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Dean Birch, and I'm with Allied Travel. And this evening, we are broadcasting live from the friendly confines of Carpenter Avenue in Windsor Heights, and also the friendly confines of Brooklyn, New York. Thank you very much for joining us. It is a beautiful fall evening in Windsor Heights. Just finished walking the dogs. The dogs had a great walk, and it is an incredible evening for a nice walk. So glad to have that behind us. I will mention before we start that my wife Jody is in the Cancun Riviera Maya. She is operating a destination wedding for about 20 couples, 40 people, and they arrived yesterday and today. The wedding party spent the day on Isla Mujeres. And I would ask you, if you have an interest, I would ask you to search Allied Travel on Facebook, and you can follow the wedding. And Jody's been taking some great pictures. But it's turtle hatching season in the Riviera Maya, and it's incredible things going on the beach there. And I would encourage you, if you have any interest at all, and if you're on Facebook, to seek us out on Facebook, and you can enjoy those pictures. So we are very fortunate this evening to have Alexandra Roth with us. Alexandra is a very busy lady, very busy young lady, and so she is a native to Hawaii, although she does live in Brooklyn, New York. Alex and I were just talking. Her family lives on Hilo on the Big Island, and her father is running for mayor of Hilo and the Big Island. So, but we're very fortunate to have Alex. Alex, as it says on the screen, is the regional director for travel industry partnerships with the Hawaii Visitors and Convention Bureau. So with that, I will turn it over to Alex, and then I'll come back a little later on in the evening and speak as well. So Alex, please go ahead.
All right, thank you, Dean and the team at Allied Travel. Aloha, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this evening to learn more about Hawaii. As Dean mentioned, my name is Alex, and yes, I am based in Brooklyn, New York, although I am from Hawaii. So I represent Hawaii here on the East Coast and the Midwest as well. So I have quite a few things to share with you all today. Just gonna quickly switch over to a brief agenda. I wanna value your time here. So this will be about a 30-minute presentation talking about Hawaii. Of course, the most important thing we gotta talk about, the elephant in the room, of course, that's COVID-19 and some of the restrictions regarding coming to Hawaii, as well as a reopening update. And then I'll get into some of the fun stuff here, which is talking about what Hawaii offers you as a traveler and the island highlights. One of the things that I hear a lot about Hawaii is that it seems like such a wonderful destination, but it can be a bit overwhelming and a bit confusing as far as booking travel there, because we do have 6 islands. Each island has its own unique personality. It is truly a destination experience. So you're going to really experience all sorts of things that there are to do there. And there are just so many options that it can be very, confusing for people. And so that's where I can help to kind of share a little bit more information about the destination. And of course, the team at Allied Travel can answer any of your questions about getting to Hawaii, getting around Hawaii, where to stay, all of that good stuff. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about COVID-19 and navigating all and adapting to these changing times. So Hawaii has had a long history of welcoming visitors, and really we're known for our hospitality. But unfortunately, when COVID hit, we realized that we really had to focus on the health and safety of course, our residents, our community, our visitor industry employees, our healthcare system, all of that. And so because of that, we really kind of had to stop welcoming visitors to the island. And we wanted to focus on mitigating the spread of COVID-19 through a very strict 14-day mandatory quarantine. And now that has been in place since March and still continues to this day. And we've been taking it very seriously. You're not allowed to leave your room or place of lodging for any reason aside from seeking medical treatment or returning to the airport. We do have a fine of up to $5,000 or up to a year in jail for those who do not comply with the order, and there have been arrests made. But it just goes to show how seriously we are taking, this virus, specifically because we have a very limited capacity with our healthcare system. We are an isolated set of islands, so we're very vulnerable. So with that, we've taken a lot of different precautions. Visitors have to check in online now every day. We are doing contact tracing for those who test positive for COVID-19, and we're soon implementing pre-travel testing protocols to be able to welcome visitors back. To give you a little bit of background of what's been happening in the islands, for months, Hawaii was doing really well as far as keeping our case numbers very low, the infection rate very low. In fact, we were one of the best states in the nation, but we weren't able to welcome visitors back because of the high numbers of cases throughout our major markets, which our biggest market is the US. And so because of that, we had been delaying the pre-travel testing program. And most recently, last month, Hawaii ended up having a surge of cases of COVID-19. Now, compared to the many areas in the mainland US, Hawaii's case numbers were still relatively low, but it was a big shock for everybody in the islands, especially considering how seriously we've been taking this. And so because of that, we did have to delay the pre-travel testing program again. However, yesterday, our governor just made an announcement that the delay went from October 1st to now October 15th. And I'll tell you why that's a good thing, is because every time this has been delayed, it's been delayed for a full month, and it almost seemed like there was no end in sight. But now this October 15th date is looking a lot more firm. So while I can't say with absolute certainty that that will be the date, it's looking more and more likely that we'll be able to start welcoming back visitors with this pre-travel testing program on that date. Now, what this means is that up until that time, everybody who arrives in Hawaii will still have to quarantine. But as we begin to transition to help welcome visitors back to the islands, visitors will be able, if they choose to, take a COVID test within 72 hours of departure. And if they present a negative test result upon arrival in Hawaii, they can bypass that 14-day quarantine. Now, as we all know, depending on where you are and which test you're taking and where you go, those test results sometimes take longer than 7 hours to come back. So for those who are still awaiting their test result when they arrive, those travelers will have to quarantine until they can provide that negative test result. Now, keep in mind that this is a pre-travel testing, right? It's taking it in advance of traveling. There will be no tests given on site upon arrival. So for travelers who decide not to take a test before flying to Hawaii, will have to quarantine for the full 14 days or shorter, or the duration of their stay, whichever is shorter. So while I don't recommend this, coming from Iowa, if you want to take a trip from Iowa to Hawaii and just stay for a long weekend, you are certainly welcome to do that. It just means that you're going to have to quarantine in your room the entire 4 or 5 days, however long that is, and then go directly back to the airport. So that is something that is possible if you choose not to take the test. However, like I mentioned, Hawaii is a destination experience, and it's really all about being able to get out of your hotel room and experience the destination. So this will hopefully be a good transition for all of us to help us move forward and welcome visitors back until there is a vaccine. Now, I have some details here on the screen about some, specifics regarding what kinds of tests are accepted. Just some disclaimers that tests will be at the expense of travelers. And again, no tests will be given on site. But the website that if you would like to know more information is gohawaii.com. And in general, this is our consumer website. So this is actually a great site to learn more about the islands, but this is also where you can stay up to date with what is happening with Hawaii's travel restrictions and with COVID-19. And then I just want to make sure that everyone, feels safe when they are traveling to Hawaii. And you can rest assured that for every step of the visitor's journey, we have partners who are implementing the proper health procedures and protocols to make sure that all visitors feel like they are safe and healthy and taken care of. So while I'm not going to go into those protocols or each of the partners, as you can see through this chart here, we do have organizations, partners, agencies at every step along the way of the journey. Now, I want to just kind of emphasize that we see at the very last part of the journey, we have the activities and attractions. And of course, we all live in a different world now. So I just want to provide the disclaimer that as we move forward and as we begin to transition, some of these activities may look different than they used to last year. There may be social distancing requirements that change the experience a little bit. Some of these activity partners, unfortunately, may not be able to make it economically. And so these are all things that we're navigating as we move forward. And of course, all destinations are navigating through this as well. But we really are trying to make sure that all of our visitors are able to have a wonderful destination experience when they come to visit us. So now let's move into the fun stuff and talk about what Hawaii offers for you as a traveler. So for one, why Hawaii, right? I mean, I'm sure you've seen the beautiful imagery, stuff about the beaches, all of that. You may have heard from a friend that they've had a wonderful time there. And the thing is, it's true. You know, Hawaii, it continues to be a top aspirational destination for North American travelers, and it continues to have a high customer satisfaction rating as well. In fact, 98% of our visitors who have stayed with us in the islands have rated their stay as excellent or above average. So you can feel confident with a Hawaii vacation. Of course, we also have a wide variety of accommodations, and it is a US destination, so it's very easy and convenient to travel there. And we've already heard, you know, from many people that people want to travel domestically, especially as we navigate through these the next year, the next couple of years. You know, having that sense of familiarity is a big priority for a lot of people, especially that sense of safety. And speaking of which, Hawaii is a very safe destination that really offers some excellent freedom and flexibility to explore. And then certainly there's that nearly perfect year-round weather that's quite great as well. Now, getting there, we do have frequent flights from many US mainland cities. You can certainly talk to Dean or Ingrid or anybody at Allied Travel to learn more about routing options. I do want to just share one exciting announcement that United Airlines is actually adding new lifts from Chicago O'Hare directly into Kona Airport starting summer 2021. So especially considering, you know, the fact that we're seeing less and less flights throughout the world with this pandemic, it's really exciting news to hear some new lift being added, especially a direct flight from the Midwest into a neighboring island. There are also a variety of cruise options in the islands as well. Now, cruising itself is not coming back until at least next year, but you know, we can start planning and we can start dreaming now, right? So there are some options to cruise into the islands from the West Coast. And there are two cruise lines that operate starting and ending in the Hawaiian Islands, and they are Norwegian Cruise Line and Uncruise Adventures. Now, Norwegian Cruise Lines is kind of the big major ship that we have in the islands, running year-round. They're Pride of America, starts and ends in Honolulu. It covers the 4 major islands. It's a week-long cruise. And then we also have Uncruise Adventures Safari Explorer. So this is a very untraditional style of cruising, as you can kind of see from the name. But it's a very small ship. I believe it's only 36 passengers. And they do not go to all the islands, or not the major islands. They do not go to Oahu and they do not go to Kauai. However, they do go to Maui and the island of Hawaii, as well as Maui's 2 sister islands, Molokai and Lanai, which no other cruise line can do. And for more information on that, you can always ask anyone at Allied Travel. So I want to talk a little bit about perceptions of Hawaii, you know, because everyone kind of has that image in their mind, right? The fantasy, and really that's why we want to travel. We have these fantasies that we want to fulfill, those dreams. And the thing is, we want to just make sure that we are setting the right expectations, and sometimes it can actually exceed expectations. So this is a word cloud of words from a focus group of people who have never been to Hawaii before. These are things that people think of: beaches, luau's, volcano, lay, surfing, right? Maybe some of these words came to your mind as well. And certainly these are wonderful things. And you may already be sold on these words themselves. But what I want to share with you is that Hawaii truly is so much more than sun, sand, and surf. And that these, in fact, are somewhat, they're not wrong perceptions, but they're kind of stereotypical words and images of Hawaii. And so I really want to showcase with you the authentic story of Hawaii, because travelers are able to learn that unique story of Hawaii. They really are able to understand why it's one of the most special places on the planet. So of course that's difficult to do in a presentation, but I certainly would like to try to get there. So part of the reason for this is two things. One, the sense of authenticity. And Hawaii is, of course, a US state, right? Like we mentioned, there is that sense of familiarity. But at the same time, Hawaii also has these deep cultural roots and, its own exotic culture, so that you can actually have this rich, immersive vacation experience even without leaving the US. And in addition to that, we have a ton of unique experiences, from the oceans to the mountains. There are so many things to do. So what happens when you combine the authenticity with those unique experiences? You get this cross-section of authentic experiences, right? So this is really where something powerful happens when these two things combine. And that's something that we really want to showcase with our visitors. And I think you'll really feel that when you come to Hawaii. Now, to kind of share this more with travelers, we started a new campaign a couple years ago that's focused on the people of Hawaii, because that's really how we're going to be able to share that authentic culture, right? Is through the stories of people who live there and who've grown up there. And so while I won't be sharing any videos on this presentation, I do encourage you to go check these out. You can go to hawaiirooted.com and hear these stories. We have stories from people on each island. And it does help to give you a deeper appreciation and understanding for our way of life, for our people, for our culture that goes beyond those words that we saw on that first slide. Now, in addition to that, prior to COVID-19, we really were starting to shift our focus to tourism kuleana. And kuleana is a Hawaiian word which means responsibility. And we want to put that responsibility on our visitors, not to burden them, but to help them understand why, our values are so important. So we want to help our visitors along the journey. And we think that this is, again, a story that is best shared by the people of Hawaii. And we have a series of videos of people talking about how our visitors can help us preserve natural resources and why that's important. How they can help us perpetuate our culture. Again, this is what makes for a much more immersive experience when you get to experience our culture, learn about our history, right? So we want our visitors to take part in that. And again, I mentioned you can watch these videos. It's at youtube.com/GoHawaii. And I think a lot of destinations are, especially as we move forward with COVID-19, are going beyond responsible tourism. There's kind of a buzzword now of regenerative tourism, which means not just how, the concept of not just going to a destination and leaving it the way it is and not making it worse, but regenerative tourism is the concept of going to a destination and helping to do your part to leave it better than what you found it. And that's really the direction that we're moving towards. And I hope that you all can help us with that as well. And with that, I want to talk about our island highlights and the differences between each of our islands. So like I mentioned in the beginning, Hawaii can be a little overwhelming and confusing because we do have 6 islands and they each have their own unique personality. So when you're thinking about your vacation experience and when you're talking to anyone at Allied Travel, think about the experience that you want to have and think about these island personalities and see if one speaks to you or resonates with you more. Okay, so first off, we're going to start with the oldest and the northernmost of the island chain. We're going to start by talking about the island of Kauai, or the Garden Isle, and you can already see a beautiful landscape, a picture of the Naupali Coast here. So Kauai's personality or brand essence can be described as lush, idyllic, peaceful, serene, immersed in nature, endless shades of green. So certainly, if you're attracted to nature, if you're attracted to the island's peaceful, immersive environment, perhaps this is the island for you. If you are want to travel to escape the busyness of life and maybe want to get away from the crowds and just want to relax and rejuvenate, not feel pressured to see the sights, this is a great island. Kauai really is all about rejuvenation, right? Being able to take in the natural beauty and just kind of take a breath and be in awe for that moment and feel rejuvenated from that. At the same time, maybe rejuvenation to you means a relaxing spa treatment or perhaps a thrilling outdoor adventure. Whatever your idea of rejuvenation might be, it's something that you can find on the island of Kauai. So some of the top attractions and activities that we have here, of course, we had that first shot of Na Pali Coast. So this is probably the most iconic shoreline that we have in Kauai and perhaps even in the Hawaiian Islands. It is 17 miles of mountainous shoreline along the northern coast. You may have seen it in a variety of different movies, Jurassic Park, Blue Hawaii, etc. And this is something that you can experience by air or by boat, depending on which suits your fancy. Then we have Waimea Canyon, which has been nicknamed the Grand Canyon of the Pacific. It's a beautiful canyon. You can go to a variety of lookouts. And again, just take a deep breath, be in awe, maybe go on some hiking trails here. And a fun fact about Kauai is that 80% of this island is actually inaccessible by car. So one of the great ways to experience the interior beauty of the island is by doing those outdoor activities and excursions, things like ATV rides, zip lining, mountain tubing, things like that, right? And as I mentioned, as we move forward, things may change, certain activities may be a little different, but I'm sure there are still many ways that you can experience that beautiful, the views of Kauai. Then we have the beautiful island of Oahu, known as a vibrant mid-Pacific hub. So here's a shot of Waikiki Beach and the iconic Leahi or Diamond Head in the background. So Oahu's personality is energy. It's vibrant, urban, contemporary. This island has so many iconic locations, and it's known as a cosmopolitan town and country. So this is great for you if you're more of an active traveler. If you're engaged, you like to relax by having fun, perhaps you have a whole checklist of activities you want to accomplish by the time you're done with your trip, right? And maybe you prioritize nature, shopping, dining, nightlife, festivals. All of these things are things that you can really get on Oahu. Now, what's wonderful about the island is, again, that town and country essence, right? So you have the metropolitan city life of Honolulu and Waikiki, but you can also get out to the countryside, areas like the North Shore or the East Side, and also kind of experience a little bit of each, a little bit of the best of both worlds, basically. Okay, and then as far as some top attractions on the island, certainly the iconic Waikiki Beach. So just to give you some reference, everyone, Oahu is the island, Honolulu is our capital city, and Waikiki is the beach and that resort area there, just to kind of orient you. And Waikiki is a fantastic place to stay. It is known actually as the birthplace of surfing. So it's a wonderful place to learn to surf if you're a novice, or perhaps do some other water activities. It's also a fantastic place for shopping, dining, and nightlife as well. And then certainly Pearl Harbor Historic Parks, that's another top attraction on the island. Temporarily, it is closed right now. However, we do anticipate it to reopen hopefully when the pre-travel testing program begins. But if you are looking to future travel, I'm sure this is something that will be coming back soon. And keep in mind that, of course, the top thing to do at Pearl Harbor is the USS Arizona Memorial pictured here, or the World War II Valor in the Pacific Monument. But there are many other things to do at Pearl Harbor, including the Bothman submarine, the Pacific Aviation Museum, the Visitor Center, the Battleship Missouri. So there are definitely many things that you can do here, and a couple hours you can spend at least. And then for Hawaiian history and culture, I highly recommend Iolani Palace. It's one of the 3 royal palaces that you can visit in the Hawaiian Islands, and in my opinion, the most regal of them all. So you can learn more about the history of our ali'i, or our royalty here, and learn more about our history as a monarchy as well. And then, like I mentioned, there's that town and country appeal of Oahu. So make sure you have a chance to explore the rest of the island, get out to the North Shore with charming towns like Haleiwa and Kahuku or Laie. These are all great places for a beach day or to go get some, nice cuisine or do a little bit of local shopping. And then while you're out there, visit the Polynesian Cultural Center, which is a wonderful place, especially for first timers to Hawaii, to have an introduction to various Polynesian cultures. I believe they have 6 Pacific Island villages featured here, as well as some great entertainment. And keep in mind, Polynesian Culture Center is also temporarily closed. We're hoping to have it come back in Q1 of 2021, so keep an eye out on that. Then we're moving on to the island of Maui, known for its sophisticated down-home appeal. Here's a shot of one of the many beautiful waterfalls that we have on Maui. Now, Maui's personality is laid back, leisurely, it's great for social interaction, it's friendly, not contrived, great for discovery and those charming small towns. So if you are someone who seeks variety, choice, spontaneous adventures, if you wanna enjoy nature in a passive way, preferring soft adventures like laying on the beach or meeting local artisans, or just going with the flow on your vacation, perhaps Maui is the island for you. One of the ways I like to describe Maui is that it is sophisticated yet down to earth at the same time. So you kind of do have the best of both worlds here as well, but in a different sense than in Oahu. Now, Maui, of course, has some incredible resorts and beaches and charming small towns to visit. And in addition to that, we have some top activities, including Haleakala, which means House of the Sun. It's a beautiful dormant volcano, which stands at over 10,000 feet in elevation and over 21 miles around. This is a wonderful place to go and see the sunrise, or perhaps do some other activities. Whale watching is also very popular here on Maui, although you can see our humpback whales on any of the Hawaiian Islands when they come to visit us in December through April, which is our whale watch season. But these humpback whales really like the calm, shallow channels between Maui and its sister islands. So if you're on this island in particular during that time, I'd highly recommend perhaps a whale watch excursion or maybe an oceanfront room to experience that. The Road to Hana is another really popular one as well. So this is a 54-mile drive that takes about 3 to 4 hours one way, I'd say, perhaps even longer, depending on how many times you want to stop at the charming, fruit stands and things along the way. But it does take that long because not only because of the places to stop, but also because there are over 600 hairpin turns, 51 lane bridges, now a lot of street lights, and beautiful views on both sides as well. So I do ask that you drive with caution if you are doing the Road to Hana on your own. There is a Road to Hana code of conduct that you can find online at gohawaii.com/Maui. But you can also take a variety of tours as well. And that sometimes is the easiest way, because that way you can leave all the driving to your tour guide and you can really just sit back and take in all the sights. And then just some great things to explore in upcountry Maui. Again, the charming small towns, farms, ranches, vineyards. We also have Ali'ikula Lavender Farm to be able to experience. As of right now, Ali'ikula Lavender Farm is only open to the public Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Of course, that's subject to change. I briefly want to talk about Maui's 2 sister islands, Molokai and Lanai. Now, these islands are very rural, not a single traffic light on either one. They're kind of more like secondary islands, and they are totally different. So let's see which one perhaps speaks to you more. Okay, so first we have Molokai. So Molokai is rustic, rugged, unspoiled, natural. It's really all about that old style of Hawaii, right? So it's about community and that simpler life. It's very authentic here. So I would recommend this for our respectful, responsible travelers. If you want to learn about, understand, and truly experience that simpler way of life, experience the Hawaiian culture, perhaps meet local people. But you really have to be open and receptive to all that Molokai has to offer. Now, this island really is true to its island roots, and it is really a great place to experience a bit of that old style of Hawaii and feel that aloha spirit as you discover some of the gorgeous places here. Then we have the island of Lanai, which is truly embracing. Here's a shot of Upehe. So Lanai is like on the opposite end of the spectrum compared to Molokai. This island is serene, secluded, refined, all about luxury, and it's great for soft adventure as well. This island kind of feels like you're on your own private island, and in some ways it is. A private island, actually. 98% of it is owned by Larry Ellison, the co-founder of Oracle, and thus he actually owns the 3 resorts that we have here as well. So this is great for, those of you who are seeking serenity, luxury, as with some possibilities for soft adventure experiences, if you're really looking for that quiet, serene, private lifestyle. Now, this is really where that, luxury and privacy are a way of life. It is the smallest island, but there are some great opportunities to go off-roading and experiencing some of the Native Hawaiian heritage sites here. As I mentioned, there are 3 resorts, and 2 of them are the 4 Seasons. So we've got the main 4 Seasons property, as well as a 4 Seasons Lodge at Ko'ele Sensei Retreat, which is actually the only all-inclusive in the Hawaiian Islands, and it is an all-inclusive wellness retreat, so keep that in mind. And then finally, we have the island of Hawaii, or the Big Island. Now, this is my home island where I grew up, and it's called or nicknamed the Big Island because it's actually twice as large as all of the other islands combined. And this island actually is really geologically diverse, carrying 10 out of the Earth's 14 climate zones. It's really known for its diversity. Now, the island of Hawaii, the personality here is living culture. It's accessible, all about active exploration. Of course, like I mentioned, with the geological diversity, you're going to get those saturated blues, greens, blacks. This island is boundless and, of course, known for its volcanoes. So this is fantastic for you if you are active and adventurous, you have an insatiable curiosity, you want those unique and unusual adventures that you may not be able to get anywhere else. And perhaps if you're interested in history, culture, astronomy, agriculture, or other natural wonders that can create that experience of a lifetime. And certainly if you don't mind having trips within your vacation, out of all of the islands, I would recommend renting a car just about in every one. But for this one in particular, you definitely need a car to get around and truly experience. This is one of those islands that you can actually do a full Circle Island trip as well. So as far as activities on the island of Hawaii, again, this island's all about diversity and a whole range of unique experiences. So one of the top attractions here, of course, is Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. It is actually a park that's over 230,000 acres. So there's plenty to do here. In fact, there are over 150 miles of hiking trails. And certainly you can go and visit Kilauea volcano as well on the crater, Halema'uma'u crater. One of the most interesting things to do now after the latest 2018 lava flow is to talk to some of the park rangers and learn more about how that all happened and actually how it added over 900 acres of new land to our island. And just to let you know, since the 2018 eruption, there is no lava flow or magma that you can see on the island or in the park currently. Now, the Kilauea volcano is still active, and you'll be able to sense that being there at the summit, seeing the steam from the steam vents, all of this. But as far as seeing that orange glow trickle into the ocean or to see it in the crater, not something that you can do at this time. However, it's all kind of happening deep underground. Another natural wonder on this island is Mauna Kea, which is another volcano. This one's a dormant volcano, and it actually stands at over 14,000 feet in elevation. It's actually the tallest mountain in the world when you count it or measure from sea level. And it's a world-renowned place for astronomy. In fact, you said you can see 90% of the stars visible from Earth here. So there are some stargazing summit tours, of course, currently not in operation, that you can do to experience Mauna Kea. There are also land-based stargazing opportunities available at select hotels and resorts as well. Now, speaking of hotels and resorts, most of them on this island are found on the west side of the island. And the reason for that is the landscape is sunnier and drier throughout the year. So, of course, you're going to put the palm trees and the hotels and resorts right there on the west side. And the west side is also where you can experience our Kona coffee farms as well, which of course are very popular. So of course, along our Kona coffee belt, we have a number of coffee farms that you can visit. You can even roast your own coffee. And in fact, because of our diversity, there is some wonderful agriculture and farm to table experiences, culinary experiences, farmers markets that you can experience all throughout the island of Hawaii if that's of interest to you. And then I didn't forget about the picture on the left-hand side. I want to take you over to the east side of the island, my hometown of Hilo, which actually gets more rainfall throughout the year. So this is a much more lush tropical climate. And here we have beautiful botanical gardens, spectacular waterfalls like Akaka Falls pictured here, or Rainbow Falls. So there are a number of things that you can do on this island. Just two other activities to just highlight the diversity here. One is experiencing Paniolo country in Waimea. Paniolo is a word which means Hawaiian cowboy in the Hawaiian language. So we actually have a very strong cowboy culture here on this island. So we've got some ranches, horseback riding experiences, etc. And then on the west side in Kona, you can also go snorkeling with manta rays. And this is one of the most memorable experiences that I've ever done. And it's one of the only places where you can actually swim with manta rays in their natural habitat as well. And keep in mind that manta rays are harmless. Stingrays are the ones that you have to worry about. So this is another exciting opportunity that you can have on the island of Hawaii. So as you can see, the Hawaiian Islands offer unlimited surprising experiences, and hopefully you learned a lot and perhaps expanded your perception of what Hawaii offers in this presentation. So with that, I wanted to say mahalo nui loa. Thank you all so much for your time and attention. I'm gonna bring Dean back to share some announcements, and then we can also take any of your questions as well.
Alex, how do you want to take questions? Are you going to unmute everyone? Is that your plan, or what are you thinking there?
So I've just given everyone access to unmute themselves. So you still have to, unmute if you'd like to ask a question. We also have a chat box. So if you would like to, if you prefer to just ask a question in the chat box, you can feel free to do so as well. So maybe we can give everyone a minute if they want to do that right now while you have some announcements, or if you want to see if everyone has questions.
Sure, I'll go ahead and say a few words while they're building up their nerve to ask questions. I do want to, really thank everyone for their time this evening. We know how valuable everyone's time is, and Alex, great job, just a really nice job of presenting the differences between the islands, and I hope that gives everyone really a better understanding of the destination, as it were. I will mention that in the spring and the summer, we did 18 webinars in 19 weeks. And this fall, we are doing 2 webinars per month. We're going to not be quite as aggressive, but we're doing 2 in September, 2 in October, and 2 in November. And you can go to our website, click on the events tab, and you can look at our calendar and then plan your fall to determine which of those that you would like to participate in. Just as in our spring and summer webinars, we are doing a virtual passport again. So you can, from our website, you can download that passport. And the password for tonight is Aloha. And at the end of the 6 webinars, you can submit the virtual passport to us with those passports, and then those will go into a drawing for an Ally Travel gift certificate. I will further mention that we are open every day. The office is open. We are meeting with people on an appointment basis. We also are doing Zoom meetings with people as well. So whatever your preferences are, but I want you to know that we are there every day to discuss your travel needs with you. Alex, the word aloha is kind of an interesting word. You're probably not prepared to do that, but what does aloha mean to you as a native Hawaiian?
Yeah, actually, aloha has many meanings. And in fact, there is a spirit of aloha law in Hawaii, which basically means to try as best as possible all the time to conduct yourself with aloha. And in that, they describe it as a connection of the mind and heart. And so it's really all about the way you treat people with kindness, compassion, respect, patience, anticipation of one's needs. And so, it really goes beyond the way that we use it as a greeting, saying hello, goodbye, and I love you. And the origins of the word are actually from the traditional greeting in Hawaii, which was an exchange of the breath. People would meet each other, they'd go forehead to forehead and just kind of breathe in each other's air. Which now, when I'm thinking about it in COVID times, is very unacceptable. But, back then it really was a very symbolic and meaningful way to greet one another. And so ha means breath, and alo is kind of that exchange. So that's just some background information on what aloha means.
Well, thank you, Alex. The reason I asked that question is that when you go to Hawaii, you have expectations. And when you come home from Hawaii, you react to those expectations. And many times they are different. And one of the things as I come home from Hawaii, every time I go there, it really has to do with the people and the culture and the feeling that you just described with what aloha means to Hawaiians. And it's a very important thing. It's really hard to describe. It's a feeling, but it is something that is very important. So thank you for pulling that together for us. So with that, do you see any questions, or does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions in the chat box, but like I mentioned, you can feel free to unmute yourself now and go ahead and ask any questions you might have.
What kind of policies are you having as far as canceling bookings? And so we're thinking about possibly a June trip, but depending on how things go, we may not take it. So I'm wondering what kind of the hotels and so forth have as far as canceling.
Alex, I'll answer that question. This is Dean. And
Dean.
Are you Bill?
I am. I'm very well. Greetings from Colorado.
Well, good to see you. Good to see you. To answer that question is the suppliers that we use could be Funjet Vacations, Apple Vacations, Delta Vacations. All of those suppliers have canceled for any reason trip insurance. And you're an experienced traveler. You're familiar with trip insurance. These suppliers means that you can cancel for any reason up to 24 hours before you go. And have complete flexibility. All you would lose is the cost of the trip insurance. And so that's the way we would approach it. But the airlines and hotels, of course, are not particularly flexible in that regard. But that's the best option that we have to really cover ourselves in this COVID-19 situation. Now, having said that, there may be situations that arise before a vaccine is available where the destination could be closed and the airlines may not be operating. That would be a different scenario than if you just kind of decided not to go. So in the scenario where all of a sudden, 3 or 4 months from now, Hawaii closed themselves again as a destination, that would be a different situation than, and it's hard to know what the answer to the question would be then, but if the destination is closed, then the suppliers and the airlines are much more flexible. But they typically are offering vouchers, as you know. In your case with Princess, they offered the 125% voucher. So, but we're approaching that carefully with all of our clients so that they know all of their options before they make that final payment. Good question.
Okay.
Absolutely, and that's the value of going through a travel advisor and having that expertise. Anybody else have any questions about a destination or about booking travel to Hawaii? All right, well, and if anyone does happen to have any questions that you want to ask either to me or to Dean, feel free to reach out. Dean can answer any questions in regards to booking travel to Hawaii, like I mentioned, getting there, the hotels, all of that information. He can probably answer a lot about the destination itself too. But I have shared my email address, and you can also get it from Dean as well in case you'd like to know a little bit more about the destination from me. But again, I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate your interest and support in Hawaii, especially during this time. A lot of destinations are suffering, and it's great to see that you all have an interest in travel right now. Oh,
Again, if there's a question.
Yeah, Linda, do you have a question?
Yes. So mainly this would be individual traveling or with a group, both, right? You could go with a group, or let's say like from Des Moines or Chicago, or individual couples would plan. Is that what you have to offer on your trips?
Sure, Linda. Well, first of all, there are groups that you could choose to go with. First of all, we are working on a group right now with WHO Radio. That has not been announced yet. It was going to operate in February. Now it's going to be delayed a little bit. But most of the group travel that we would recommend to you might be with a company like Globus, where everyone might fly to Hawaii separately. But when you arrived in Hawaii, you could travel with the group, and that group would do a set itinerary on motor coach, and it could be 7 to 10 days. There are other suppliers that do group travel as well, and that would be with a fully escorted group with a guide every day, or you would be on a motor coach. So there are ways to do the group travel where you actually fly to Hawaii and then travel with the group. Now, we are doing a group that actually is operating from Des Moines that will travel from Des Moines as a group. So those are two different scenarios. But in general, most people that go to Hawaii, because it is English speaking, you drive on the right, it is US dollar. Most people do Hawaii on their own. And, we set up the air, the hotel. You can do rental cars or airport transfers. We can also set up a number of your tours in advance if you would like. But that's the purpose of, that's what we bring to the table, is really sitting down with you, discussing those options with you, and then you would determine, of course, which is the best option for you based on your needs. And literally everyone is different. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, I'm not a real. I haven't been traveling long. I've traveled a few places, like in the States and stuff. But as far as going very far, I haven't been. So I think I'd like to do the WHO thing, but
Sure.
Later on that maybe I could do the individual thing, flying in and then meeting up with a group,
Absolutely,
So,
understand. Well, that's something that certainly would enjoy meeting with you, and I can discuss those options with you separately so that you have a better understanding of how that might all come together.
I see. Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Alex, other questions that anybody has?
I don't see anybody having their hand raised or unmute. So, last chance if anybody does have any questions. But aside from that, I'll turn it over to you, Dean.
Good. Well, Alex, again, thank you very much. And we are very fortunate to have you spend time with us this evening. We're very thankful for that. So with that, I'll say thank you to everyone again. I'll wish you all a good evening. And I'll look forward to hearing from you all in the next couple of weeks and months with your further questions. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Mahalo.